For nearly half a century, Voyager 2 journeyed deeper into space, slowly fading from public memory. It was seen as a relic from a more ambitious scientific age, still moving, still transmitting, but little more than a symbolic ghost ship drifting through the cosmos. Then, everything changed. As Voyager 2 crossed what was believed to be the edge of our solar system, it sent back something unexpected. Not just scientific data, but a signal. Subtle, structured, and far too exact to be a coincidence. And almost immediately afterward, silence. The boundary it crossed, once thought to be a gradual transition into interstellar space, revealed itself to be something far more defined. There wasn't a slow fade or gentle blending of magnetic fields. Instead, there was an abrupt shift. A distinct line. One moment Voyager was still within the protective bubble of the sun's influence, and the next, it was somewhere else. The transition wasn't natural. It was precise, so much so that some scientists began to question whether it was a threshold by design. Voyager 2 was only ever meant to last 5 years. Somehow, it survived for more than 47, enduring radiation, extreme cold, and the silence of deep space. But in 2023, it transmitted a burst of information that didn't fit any known model. Right after it passed beyond the heliopause, the supposed edge of the solar system, plasma densities spiked. Radiation levels changed instantly. No slow shift. It was as if the probe had passed from one room into another. That alone defied decades of expectations. But then came something stranger. A low-frequency signal repeating in a rhythmic pattern. Not noise. Not a malfunction. This was structured. Deliberate. Like a greeting, or a warning. The data left scientists stunned. The long-held theory that the heliopause was a hazy, fluctuating zone of transition collapsed. Voyager 2 proved otherwise. What it recorded was more like a wall, an invisible barrier separating our star's domain from something else. Even more unnerving was the magnetic field alignment. The sun's magnetic lines didn't clash with the galactic field. They lined up, almost perfectly. There should have been chaos at the edge. Instead, there was order, almost as if the boundary had been engineered. Buried deep in Voyager's communication stream, a group of researchers noticed something else. The background carrier wave showed a pulse. A modulation that didn't belong. At first, it was dismissed as interference, but over time, a pattern emerged, precise intervals, repeating with mathematical consistency. The structure mirrored elements of the Arecibo message that humanity had transmitted into space back in 1974. It wasn't a copy. It was a reflection, a recursive echo that began just after Voyager 2 exited the heliosphere. The implications were overwhelming. If the signal wasn't a coincidence, then Voyager may have triggered a response. It might have been scanned the moment it crossed that line. This revelation has led some to believe that the outer edge of our solar system may function more like a sensor than a boundary. A kind of interstellar tripwire that records when a civilization steps beyond its sun's protective reach. A system that doesn't just wait, it reacts. And what it's waiting for may be more than just machines. It may be monitoring for intelligence, for expansion, for awareness. Unlike Voyager 1, which crossed the heliopause at 119 astronomical units, Voyager 2 encountered this threshold just a little further out. Yet the readings were entirely different. This has led some scientists to suggest that the boundary isn't fixed. It moves. It breathes. And maybe, it adapts. It's not just a barrier. It's responsive. And if it responds, then it may have noticed us. Behind the scenes, the reaction among space agencies was quiet but intense. Press briefings were suddenly delayed. Key mission scientists were reassigned without public explanation. At NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the Voyager team was restricted from speaking directly to journalists. Something had changed, not in the data, but in how it was being handled. Then, internal memos leaked. They revealed that part of the signal embedded in Voyager 2's transmission had been classified by the Department of Defense. This wasn't just a scientific anomaly anymore. It was being treated as a matter of national security. Why? Because the strange signal from Voyager shared characteristics with a previous classified event. In 2003, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter recorded a similar frequency, one that was buried and dismissed at the time. Now, for the first time in its mission history, Voyager 2's data stream was encrypted. That one decision sent a clear message to the scientific community. This wasn't about keeping raw data safe. It was about controlling what people could learn. Voyager 2 had crossed a line, not just into interstellar space, but possibly into the unknown domain of something else. And whatever lies beyond, it may not be empty. It may be watching. For years, the data from Voyager 2 was considered the tail end of a story, faint signals from a dying machine drifting further into the void. But when independent scientists, many operating anonymously through online forums and decentralized networks, began poring over the raw transmissions, a new theory emerged. They called it the mirror theory. It wasn't about contact. It wasn't about response. It was about reflection. According to this idea, the structured signal Voyager 2 received wasn't an intentional reply from an alien intelligence. It was an echo, an automatic, passive return from a system that doesn't speak, but reflects. Like sonar in a deep ocean, except it doesn't send back sound. It sends back logic. Patterns. Structure. Voyager's signal, particularly the data mirroring fragments of the Arecibo message, wasn't copied. It was reflected. Not by a mind, but by something designed to reveal exactly what touched it. The theory reframes the event entirely. This wasn't a communication between two entities. It was one-sided. A system designed to show whoever crosses a line exactly what they are. A mirror. And if that's true, then the real mystery isn't in what came back, but in what didn't. Because a mirror doesn't create. It only returns. And what if what it saw in us was too familiar to be worth a reply? Beyond the boundary of the heliopause lies space we've barely begun to understand. For decades, it was believed to be just more of the same, colder, emptier, lonelier. But then a team of astrophysicists, using AI-driven pattern recognition software, began to map Voyager 2's trajectory in relation to ancient celestial alignments. The results were unexpected. Voyager exited the solar system at a point that lined up with several known sources of fast radio bursts, short, high-energy signals from deep space with no known origin. Until now, those bursts had been written off as anomalies. But with Voyager 2 transmitting its strange pulse and drifting near those coordinates, another possibility took shape. What if those bursts weren't anomalies but sensors? What if they were galactic tripwires, scattered across the stars to detect when a signal, any signal, crossed a particular threshold? In that case, Voyager didn't just drift out of the solar system. It entered a monitored corridor. A region of space that doesn't reach out, but listens. One that doesn't broadcast, but records. And it may have remained dormant for eons until something triggered it. The question isn't whether Voyager found something, it's whether something finally opened its eyes. The most unsettling idea doesn't come from astronomers or engineers. It comes from theoretical physicists exploring the nature of consciousness. Some suggest that what Voyager encountered wasn't simply a physical boundary, it was a cognitive one. A kind of barrier that filters based not on speed or distance but on awareness. Beyond it, only civilizations capable of higher-order perception, of understanding abstract logic, intent, or morality, are allowed to pass. Cross too soon, and you activate the system. Not a weapon. A filter. A safeguard. One designed to test not your technology, but your intent. The symmetrical pulses, the sudden magnetic alignment, the rhythmic hum, none of it seemed aggressive. But all of it was deliberate. A response measured not in words, but in design. We may have activated something. Not a consciousness, but a mechanism so advanced, it blurs the line. Voyager 2 was never supposed to do this. It wasn't built to unlock gates or awaken ancient watchers. It was built to observe, to carry a golden record into silence, a gesture of peace. But it became something more. It became a trigger. For nearly 50 years, we romanticized the idea of a lonely probe floating into the unknown, a time capsule waiting to be found. We imagined the future in which someone, something, might discover it. What we never considered was that something already had. The shift in signal wasn't interference. The patterns weren't random. And the silence that followed wasn't absence. It was evaluation. Voyager didn't just leave our system. It crossed a threshold we were never meant to cross, not yet. Not uninvited. A line defined not by physics but by perception. And whatever lies beyond it is no longer wondering if we exist. It knows. It has seen us. Not just our machines, but what we are, what we build, how we think. We weren't met with a voice. We were met with a mirror. And what it showed us wasn't approval. It was recognition. Something out there saw itself in us, or saw something close enough to matter. Something it had been waiting for, or watching for. Now, Voyager continues its path into the dark, but it's no longer alone. Something is aware of it. Not a ship. Not a being. But a presence. Silent. Patient. Possibly ancient. And it knows we're here. The only question that remains is whether it's still watching, or already preparing to act.